We've reached a tipping point where it has become obvious to most Americans who are paying attention at this point that the left wing media is actually intending to incite violence, intending to incite a civil war, and is functioning, frankly, as enemy combatants in a civil war that they have already started. The enemy of the people is the left wing media. And something needs to be done under law because it is illegal to incite mob violence. And that's exactly what the media is doing. They are deliberately trying to get children killed. They are trying to foment civil war. They are trying to spread violence. And they're doing this using a playbook that they have used over and over again, which is to take a video or even stage an event and then capture a video and then deliberately take that video out of context. All right, welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams here, filling in as the guest host for the rest of this hour. And in this segment, we've got to cover another take on the situation where the fake news left-wing media has become truly the enemy of the people in this deliberately false coverage of the Catholic students with the MAGA hats, who the left-wing media, of course, claimed that these students were harassing this Native American Indian. Turns out it was exactly the opposite. And I want to be clear that the left-wing media did not make an honest mistake. They did not accidentally misrepresent the facts of the situation. They deliberately wrote a false narrative in order to mislead the American public and incite violence in order to harm these American students. The left-wing media, in doing this, cements its position as the enemy of the people. I believe that we have reached a tipping point now with this story in particular, but also, the BuzzFeed fake news from a few days ago as well. We've reached a tipping point where it has become obvious to most Americans who are paying attention at this point that the left-wing media is actually intending to incite violence, intending to incite a civil war, and is functioning, frankly, as enemy combatants in a civil war that they have already started. The enemy of the people is the left-wing media, and something needs to be done under law because it is illegal to incite mob violence, and that's exactly what the media is doing. They are deliberately trying to get children killed. They are trying to foment civil war. They are trying to spread violence, and they're doing this using a playbook that they have used over and over again, which is to take a video or even stage an event and then capture a video and then deliberately take that video out of context and deliberately misrepresent what was said in that video. This is the same thing, essentially, what CNN did with the video of, Jim Acosta, who was slamming his hand down on the arm of that White House intern at the Trump press conference. And then when Paul Joseph Watson released that video with commentary, CNN said, oh, that video's faked. They said it was doctored. No, that was real. What CNN has been doing with this event in Washington, D.C. is doctored when they selectively edit and leave out the context of the fact that this Native American provocateur is the one who approached and started harassing these students. CNN leaves that out. That is doctoring video. And so, and yet at the same time, the tech giants are complicit in all of this as well. Google News says the only news that they will allow you to see is the fake major media, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, all the fake news that are now functioning. They are deliberately operating as enemy combatants in order to try to incite violence in the United States of America. And we have to demand the application of law. The Department of Justice, and this message needs to get to Trump, the DOJ must begin to investigate not only the individuals on Twitter and other social media who have called for acts of violence against these students. They called for burning down the school, that Catholic school, after locking the doors, burning those students alive. They called for mass shootings against those students. These people on Twitter have called for murdering them and harvesting their organs and other grotesque things. It's insane. And yet Twitter won't even ban them. Twitter will ban you for saying that vaccines cause autism, but they won't ban you if you're a leftist demanding to burn down a school of white Catholic boys because they wore a pro-Trump hat. I mean, that's how insane things have become. But the DOJ needs to go after those individuals and also needs to go after the journo terrorists. Now, that term, journo terrorism, that's a phrase that I coined a couple of years ago. Once again, sort of ahead of the curve on these things. Now we're seeing journo terrorism in action. We are seeing it happen. These are terrorist organizations pretending to be journalists. They are deliberately inciting violence, and their goal is to cause massive hatred. Their goal is to interfere with elections, because getting people to hate Trump through false information is election meddling. Their job is to cause a civil war and cause as much chaos as possible under the Trump administration so they can claim that Trump doesn't know how to run things. This is exactly what the left-wing media is doing. And frankly, it is illegal, and it needs to be investigated. It needs to be prosecuted. They do not have First Amendment protections when they are inciting violence, mob violence against innocent individuals by deliberately misrepresenting the events that took place. There is no First Amendment protection. This is yelling fire in a crowded theater when there is no fire. This is exactly what the left-wing media is doing. And it is time, President Trump and all of you in Washington, it is time to prosecute these journo terrorists for their acts of psychological terrorism and inciting mob violence in the United States of America. Fake news has reached a crisis point in this country, and something has to be done. If it isn't done by the lawmakers in Washington, then it's very clear that once the Civil War begins, that these fake news media outlets have placed themselves on the list of organizations that must be dismantled in order to restore law and basic civility in our country. We cannot survive as a nation when these dishonest, deliberately deceptive left-wing media outlets are allowed to carry out acts of journo terrorism without any consequences. And this is the other point here. What they're doing has so far had zero consequences. They fabricate fake sources. They lie about Trump. There are hundreds of fake news examples of what they have falsely published about Trump and Russia collusion, that entire hoax. There's so many examples, literally hundreds of examples of fake news, and there have been zero consequences for them. There are no repercussions for publishing fake news in America. In fact, the more fake news you publish on the left, the more you are celebrated, the more clicks you get, the more advertisers support your platforms. It is sickening, absolutely sickening, and this cannot go on. And in conclusion of this, we need to understand the left-wing media is not operating in good faith. They are not engaged in journalism. They are not engaged in news gathering and news reporting. They are not engaged in First Amendment activities that are protected by the First Amendment. They are engaged in fomenting violence, mob violence against innocent individuals. And that is not protected by the First Amendment. As I said, they're yelling fire in a crowded theater. They're not operating in good faith. When a media outlet interviews Alex Jones, for example, they are not interested in finding out who Alex Jones is or what motivates him or what struggles did he go through to create this media empire that is InfoWars. They're only interested in playing gotcha. This is what they did to Representative Steve King. What was it, less than a week ago? It's about playing gotcha. They sit you down, they interview you for 3 hours, and then they pick one sentence that you may have slightly misspoken, and they use that one sentence to obliterate and destroy your career completely out of context in what you said. This is how the media operates. They are not operating in good faith. They are operating as enemies of the United States of America. They are enemies of the people. They are enemies of democracy. They are enemies of truth. All real truth from the independent media is banned, censored, maligned. All fake news narratives from the left-wing media is now labeled truth, and it's the official truth, and you are not allowed to disagree with it. And if you want, just here's a thought experiment. Imagine with the situation in Washington where this Native American man was harassing these students and beating a drum in their faces. And the media said, the bad people are the students. Now imagine if the roles were reversed. What if a group of white students wearing Make America Great Again hats were beating drums in the faces of Native American Indians? Imagine that scene scene for a moment. White students beating drums in the faces of Native American Indians. What do you think the narrative would be from the left-wing media? It would be, oh, the white students are harassing the Indians. So the white students are apparently wrong and bad no matter what they do, because the media is racist, the media is dishonest, the media is run by a bunch of bigots, and they have no good faith whatsoever in covering news that's important for you to know. They are the enemy of the people, they're the enemy of America, and ultimately they have to be completely dismantled and stopped from destroying our nation from within. Much more straight ahead. We'll be back after this break. All right, kicking off the final segment for today. Thanks for joining me. Mike Adams here, filling in for Alex Jones. Just a hilarious comment here. Starbucks is now selling nitrogen-infused coffee. They call it Nitro Cold Brew. And apparently, Starbucks customers don't know anything about the atmosphere or chemistry, or they would know that the atmosphere that you are breathing is 78% nitrogen. And so people are paying extra for this so-called nitrogen-infused coffee, which is nothing more than air blown through your coffee. And Starbucks claims that it makes the coffee taste better and have a smoother texture. Well, guess what? Nitrogen is inert. It's an inert gas, which is why we use it in our laboratory, in our triple quad mass spec instruments, and as a dry down air. It's totally inert. It does not interact with almost any molecule. So Starbucks is committing massive scientific fraud to market a product that just has air blown through it, and the Starbucks customers actually believe that. That's how incredibly illiterate they are when it comes to science. It's just incredible. Like selling you nitrogen in your coffee would be like, I don't know, the power company charging you for sunlight or something. You can get it for free. It's everywhere. Just inhale, you've got nitrogen. Go for it. It's like, but they attack InfoWars for selling nutrition products, while Starbucks is selling you the same nitrogen that you can get for free by simply breathing. It's unreal. Now, moving on to more serious topics, I think the media owes America a national apology, and that's what I'm calling for today. Not only a national apology over this fake news hoax surrounding the Catholic students and the Native American Indian guy in Washington, D.C. And by the way, that guy has a history of being a provocateur. This isn't the first time he's done this. It's a pattern that he has. He goes in and he harasses people, and then he flips the script and lies about them. And of course, he has a complicit media to go along with him to magnify his deception, because it happens to fit the narrative that the left-wing media wants. But in doing that, what they're actually demonstrating is the incredible racism and bigotry on the left, that they target students for being white. They target students who are just standing there smiling. Apparently that's a hate crime now in America, to stand there smiling. It's just unreal. But the media owes America a national apology. Not only just this story, but on the entire Russia collusion hoax. CNN, New York Times, Washington Post especially, they all should come out. And of course, they'll never do this, but they need to come out and say that they lied to America. They know they did. They fabricated fake sources. They made up false narratives. They took things out of context on purpose. They have been running a psyop on America since day one, well, since Trump was elected, and they're going to continue to do it as long as they can get away with it. Now, going along with them, of course, is Twitter, Google News, Facebook, and other tech giants. Here's a headline from the Gateway Pundit. Los Angeles DJ calls for Covington Catholic School to be burned down with kids locked inside, and Twitter says he didn't violate the rules. So Twitter says that in their view, it's okay to call for the mass murder of white students because they're white, to burn them to death in a school. Twitter says that's fine. But my God, if you say you love America or you want border protection, that's racist. So wait a second. So burning white students alive in their own school is perfectly acceptable? But saying you love your country and you want to defend your borders, that's hate? I mean, give me a break here. Isn't real hate speech saying that you want to murder unborn babies? That's hating babies. That's hating human beings. If you are murdering babies in partial birth abortions, that's hate speech. But no, the tech giants say it's actually hateful if you say that abortion is bad. That's hateful. That's somehow wrong to say that human lives matter. This is how twisted the tech giants have become. They are complicit in this. They are part of this assault on our culture. They're part of this assault on life. And it goes to so many different levels. The Counterthink episode that I broadcast yesterday on InfoWars was entitled How to Spot a Demon. And it talked about how to identify people who are truly possessed by demonic influences. That is really the root cause of so many of the problems we're seeing. I got to say, not all of the people, even so-called people that you're seeing operating in the left-wing media, they're not all, how do I say this correctly? They're not all human. They are answering to demonic possession and demonic spirits and evil spirits, and they pray to Satan, and they conduct these weird seances, and they love child sacrifice. This is why they're pro-abortion. They love murdering life, using it to give them some kind of weird, dark, twisted power that they use over the entire world. This is a spiritual battle as much as it is a political battle and a culture war. Along those lines, I've just published a new podcast called There's No Such Thing as White Privilege. And I really encourage you to listen to that podcast. It's on brighteon.com, of course, but you can get to it from the National News homepage on the right column there. And in this podcast, I explain that, we all want to live in a world where people are judged by the merit, the content of who they are. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. said, I want my daughter to grow up in a world where we're judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Martin Luther King today would be considered a conservative, absolutely a conservative, cultural conservative, because he believed in a merit-based society. And that's what I'm saying in my podcast. We want a merit-based society where people are not hated or punished or given extra bonuses based on the color of their skin, where every person has to earn their position, whether it's an admission into a university, a job position, or any other government position, something like that. You need to earn your way there. But instead today, we don't have white privilege. We have minority privilege. We have white punishment. You are punished for being white. You are targeted for being white, as we just found out over the weekend with these Catholic students who were harassed and vilified and death threatened because they were white. How's that white privilege? That's actually being punished for being white. The privilege was enjoyed by the Native American provocateur / crisis actor guy. He got all the privilege to say anything he wanted and to lie and to deceive and to control the media without any fact checking about what he claimed, because he was lying the entire time. You're watching minority privilege, not white privilege. White people are punished in this society. And I say that as someone, by the way, whose wife is an immigrant. And myself, I am, according to my ancestors, I'm about 10% Native American myself. So, you can't put me in the same box. I'm a diverse person as well. But as a diverse person, I believe in a merit-based society. I run a large organization. I employ over 100 people. And I don't judge people by the color of their skin. I don't fire or hire people based on what they look like on the outside. I hire and fire based on their performance and who they are on the inside, their dedication, their courage, their intelligence, their honesty. And this is exactly what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about. And so if we are to celebrate Martin Luther King today, which I think it's a great idea to celebrate those ideals, we should be celebrating a merit-based society, a meritocracy. And that is the opposite of what the radical left wants for America. They want to play victims. They want to punish you for the way you were born. This is the same group that used to say that gay people are born gay and you shouldn't punish them for the way they were born. But now they say white people are born white and they're demons and devils and they have to be punished for a lifetime because of the way they were born and the color of their skin. The bigotry is from the Democrats. The bigotry is from the left. We are now living in a society of minority privilege where the minority class, the victim class, is running hate campaigns against people based on the color of their skin. That's how twisted things have become. This is far from the society that Dr. Martin Luther King laid out for us, this society of fairness and real justice, a society of honoring the divinity of every human being. We are so far from that now. We are in this twisted, dark underworld of bigotry and hatred pushed by the left, while they claim to have a monopoly on all facts and a monopoly on all news, and claim that this report or any other report that you get from Natural News or InfoWars, they claim that's false when we are the only ones telling the truth. The left-wing media lies by default. Even Scott Adams found that out lately. He got duped temporarily by this story about this, and he apologized to the students of the Catholic school. He got duped. Even Scott Adams was just reminded, never believe the left-wing media by default. Never believe them, because they lie by default. That is what they do. Their job is to destroy America. Their job is to destroy this country. Their job is to incite hatred and violence, and they're going to get people killed. And when someone gets killed from this, I hope to God that the Trump administration prosecutes those journo terrorists for inciting mob violence and being part of that violence being committed against people based on the color of their skin. These are hate crimes, essentially. There you go. Thanks for watching. This is Mike Adams for The Alex Jones Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, the new year is here. And I personally, in the new year, am looking at all the great supplements and products at InfoWarsLife.com and saying, what do I need to take religiously that I'm forgetting to take, that lowers inflammation, that empowers all the cells in the body, that makes me healthier, better stamina, libido, energy? And it's these three babies. It's Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula with 95% curcuminoid. Nobody else can top that. Top of the line in the nation. It's X3 that has all three of the good types of iodine together, including the deep earth crystal iodine. Because some people can't absorb that type, we put a little bit of the other two types and a tiny bit of vitamin C to stabilize it. And then Super Male and Super Female Vitality. Super Male Vitality's been our overall most successful product, neck and neck with Brain Force Plus. But because it's wildcrafted and a proprietary process, we weren't able to get it for long periods of time. And so I made the decision just to discontinue it and try to reformulate. But it's been very, very hard to do. So we're not discontinuing it because it's crap. We're discontinuing it because we can't get it. It may come back in the future, but right now we're just not able to bring you this. It's our last run of it. Proprietary, amazing. It's at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWarsStore.com is the umbrella site. Or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Body's Turmeric Formula. And it's supercharged with other key ingredients that supercharge it, bring it to the next level. And then, of course, it's the X3. It's our final run of X2. We've secured the deep earth iodine, but I thought to make a better one with all three types and the vitamin C. So get your X2, get your X3, all at InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And again, have a great New Year as we fight the globalists and restore the republic and freedom to the planet. Thank you all.